Hi friends! Today I am going to be talking through the making process for the headpiece that I made for my Dark Fairy costume that I entered into the Foundations Revealed competition this year. The headpiece was my absolute favorite piece from the whole look, and it was one of my favorite to make because it was something that was completely new to me, it was materials that were completely new to me, and it was a challenge, but one that didn't have too much pressure on it, because if it didn't turn out exactly the way I had envisioned, it wasn't that big of a deal. All it needed to do was look like it belonged to a queen and have her mothy little minions erupting from it. For the crown, I was really inspired by Russian kokoshniki, and I wanted the shape to emulate that because I think it's a shape that's very regal and feminine while still not being too over the top like you can kind of get when you think of the stereotypical Western giant golden crowns. Because I didn't want the more natural elements like the moths and the twigs to seem too disjointed and out of place against the crown. The technique for how to make the crown was taught to me by my dear friend Katherine, who is an amazing seamstress and historical costumer, and she is also the model for this project because I am pregnant and the character is not. The crown is based on the headpieces that Jeffery Lieder, I really hope I'm saying that right, made for the Nutcracker with the Milwaukee Ballet. The headpieces he created are absolutely stunning, and so what I did was took inspiration from those and changed the shape a little bit and changed the finishing techniques just a little bit. Obviously, his are a lot more professional and nice looking because I am a beginner at this, but I am afraid of copyright issues, so I will link some photos to his work, especially the one I was the most inspired by, in the description, but I won't put them here. Anyways, let's get started, and I will show you how I fumbled through this project, but somehow made something that I actually really love. So I ordered these online. My original plan had been to use the kind of papery wooden ones that you use for floral crafting, and I just could not find them locally anywhere, which is so weird because I swear I saw them all the time and I just couldn't find them. So I ordered these and they came kind of separated by color like this. They've got these little clippies on them, so that's kind of cool because I can use them to attach to things, but also some of them I'll probably take off because they're gonna look weird in the headpiece. And it also came with these wall sticky things, but we don't need those. So I went ahead and opened all of the colored packs and then separated them by their size instead of by their color. So I've got the extra small here, the kind of medium ones, the extra big ones, and the big ones. Just to give you scale, here's my hand against the kind of extra big ones. To start, I just painted them one wing at a time with some acrylic paint, and I started with black. By the time I had gotten all of the ones that I planned to paint the background black on done, the first ones were dry, so I was able to go back and start on the other wing. Then I took some lighter gray acrylic and made designs on each one, and I did try to make each moth different, not just in the shape, but also in the design they had as well, so that it wouldn't get too repetitive. Then I repeated the process just with a gray background and black accents. This one I'm marking to cut a little bit because I figured since this costume was something I was making to enter into the Foundations Revealed competition and it involves moths, it would be kind of funny and cheeky to make one of the moths look like the Foundations Revealed logo. It's not quite the right shape, but I think you get the idea. So here are all the moths now that they're painted. I'm not sure I'm going to need quite this many, but this gives me a bit of variety to choose sizes and which patterns I really liked and just kind of mess with the design a bit. Then I went over to Katherine's house and she started teaching me how to use the millinery wire, and we altered a pattern to be more like what I wanted. That's as far as I got before I took it home and started working on it myself there, and I really just kept shaping it to follow the pattern. This was way harder than I ever expected it to be. It was such a new thing for me. I just could not figure out how to move the pliers, how to move my hands, how to move the wire to make it in any way seem graceful. It was a very laborious and interesting process. Once I got the spikes kind of the right size, then I took my pliers and tried to spread them apart to make them the right shape as well. They really reminded me of like Stegosaurus lumps. What are those called? I don't know. You know what I'm talking about though. And then I wired in the cross support and wired the Stegosaurus lumps together to kind of create more support, and that started shaping it. So I used jewelry wire to put all of the joints together, and I did not leave myself enough time for this. I didn't think about the fact that I wouldn't have calluses from working with something like this before, and I ended up kind of just forging right through it and working through anyway, and gave myself some blisters. So I would recommend doing this in pieces if you haven't done something like this before. Then I made sure to round out my shapes and of course added the other top support. I cut and sewed a piece of tulle like this, not this one because this one ended up being way too small, so I had to make a bigger one, but very similar to this in shape, just bigger. And then sewed the edges together and then turned it inside out and put that over the metal frame. Then I switched out my foot on my machine to be an invisible zipper foot and sewed the mesh as close as I could to the wire without obviously catching the wire and breaking my needle, so that it would just remain taut and cover the wire while being secure. Then I gave it a little snippy, about a 1/2 inch or 1/4 of an inch away from the wire. I really was not careful with this. I didn't see a reason to be, because I just ended up stuffing the excess fabric into some bias tape, which I sewed on by hand with not the nicest looking stitches because I thought they wouldn't be very visible, and they were. It's okay, it's not too bad. Then I got some sticks in the usual way that you get some sticks. I did not record this part, but I had attached the twigs with some hot glue to the inside of the crown, and I decided to glue everything on here instead of sew everything on here because I could just glue it to the bias tape and the mesh. And then once I was done with this costume, I could take all of that off and reuse the millinery wire base to make another project. So I would be able to reuse it, and it would be easier to take apart if it was just glued instead of sewn on. Then I attached moths to the sticks, again using glue, and I just tried to pick different colors and different sizes and different designs and spread them out, not evenly, but abundantly and kind of naturally. So then I took these little plastic fake pearls, which aren't the best quality, but they still look okay, and I used them to glue on and cover the joints wherever I used the jewelry wire to wrap the millinery wire together to cover up the joints, because I didn't wrap the whole thing in anything, it's just covered in the tulle. And also because in the book it mentions that she has a pearl hair clip that she uses to hold her hair back. So I thought that was kind of a cool addition, referencing the book design. They're just two peas in a pod, two pearls and a creepy fairy head thing. So here is the Dark Fairy's headpiece with her mothy little dudes flying off to do her evil bidding. I am so incredibly happy with how this turned out. It is my favorite piece from the whole outfit, even though it was really, really hard to make, actually a lot harder than I expected. I think the whole thing took me about 5 to 6 hours. I didn't really count the painting time. Because I'm videotaping myself stealing some twigs. Bye, friends.